Brilliant Minds. I'm so pleased to invite a friend of mine onto the show today, Britney. In this episode today, we're going to be talking about spiritual narcissism and its effects and the boundaries that one should be aware of. How are you doing today, Britney? Where you are?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Hope you had a great day.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So, as I say, in today's episode, we're gonna just go into some details in terms of like Britney's story, what's brought her here today, spiritual narcissism and the spirit behind it, the lessons that you can learn, the boundaries that you should be aware of, things like love bombing, looking at the signs of that, generational curses, and also like soul ties and soul covenants, however you want to put that, and also finding that innate built intuition, which ultimately comes from God, and also going through a healing process and establishing that concept of the law of attraction in your life so you can move forward after you've healed and achieve your dreams. So Britney, I don't know if you could just give us a brief background on your story and
Sure. So I was in a long-term relationship with a narcissist. I didn't know at the time that he was a narcissist, right? But exiting out of the relationship, I was very hurt, and I didn't even know it. Masked my pain with a lot of drug abuse, alcohol abuse for a lot of years, until I ended up in another relationship with, I would say, a psychopath, where it was somebody at my work, came to me with, problems in his life, and I was very, I'm a very compassionate person by nature, which is a good target for these types of people, right? And
Definitely.
And we ended up getting involved, and I really wasn't wanting a serious relationship, and his culture and things like that, it wasn't really normal for him, and he started to hack me.
Wow.
Started to hurt me, so all of my, kind of play with my mind, right? Kind of tortured me, right?
Like mind games,
Mind games really messed with me. And that went on for, I want to say, about a year. He had everything of mine rigged. I mean, and people didn't believe me that it was going on, but I mean, it was, right? And he was very advanced, like in computers and things like that, so it was not difficult for him to do.
He must have taken his time to like study you as well, because that's tend to be what they do. It's he
definitely learned me, and I think that I do have, I can have a bit of an ego myself, right? And I think that this rubbed him the wrong way. He wasn't really used to seeing a girl like me, right? And I was very hard up in my pain at that time, right? I said, I was drinking a lot. I was, you know what I mean? And he really took me down. I would say I went through dark night of the soul, where I would say I spiritually died. It was really, really tough. Yeah.
And that, I think that's the thing as well. Like, a lot of people, I think, do not realize you can get spiritually dead and be spiritually awakened. And a lot of people, I find, are not even aware of this, and it's very important for people to be in tune with their spirituality and their spirit self. Because as I say in the series of this month of Spiritual Narcissism, you need to be in touch with yourself and your spiritual, because it applies to all aspects of your life, your relationships, your business. So why wouldn't you want to pay attention to that? So I think the mere fact that you've identified that you're spiritually dead was even progress for you. I mean, at what stage did you realize that, Britney?
Well, we weren't talking for, quite some time, and he was still, messing with me and things like that. And I was very like the type of person where I had, a lot of people, a lot of friends, and I was, going out and things like that. And I just hit a wall where I was like, I have nothing to give, right? And I cut off all my friendships. I stopped talking to my family. I really went in solitude. And
those are the warning signs. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I've never felt like that in my life. It was just like the version that I was just gone. And I can say now, that this might sound bizarre, but I'm grateful for it. I do believe that it was, where I was in my life, right? Had it not been for that experience, I might still be where I was, right? Living in that pain and running from it, right? Because of that relationship, I spent, 4 years it took me to heal, right? And
wow.
Yeah. But that's from everything, right? Like, I had a lot go on in my life. But if it wasn't for that experience, I wouldn't have truly healed.
Yeah. And that's the thing, Brittany, like, experience is like truly the best teacher, and it's up to people what they want to make of these experiences, whether to drown in the negativity or, be resilient. And it's going to be a test of your character and your spirit, because at the end of the day, everyone's going through tribulations. Like, it's not going to be like a plain sailing ride. Like, everyone should have a story. So it's about what you make of it and how you come out to make you become the best from today. So
Absolutely.
I think that's very important. And obviously, when we were catching up, even offline as well, when we talk for, it just goes to show that, when people go through these experiences, it's such an in-depth topic that people need to be aware of. Like, especially if people think that, like, this can never happen to me. Like, this is so common in your workplace, in your family, and there's an ignorance about what it is. Like, it's just narcissism. It's just, it's not going to come to me. Do you know what I mean? So I think when people like us have had like an in-depth experience of that, it's just it's kind of like, I don't know if I mentioned it before, it's kind of like when you realize it and you get that awakening, it's almost as if an epiphany moment where you just realize, tick, wow, this is exactly what I went through. So I think that was a very deep, enlightening moment to discover when we discussed as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really, like, unless you've gone through it, you don't really understand the magnitude or the complexity of what narcissistic abuse is. It's so seedy and so hidden and so destructive.
Especially when it's covert,
Yeah, covert, exactly. And it's when we think of narcissism, right? Unless you've been through it, right? You don't really think of this. And when people are healing, they're like, haven't you healed yet? And you're like, no, this person dismantled my mind. Like, they really did a number on me, right? But people don't really understand, just how deep it is.
Definitely. So, leading on to that, like the spiritual narcissism, like, what do you think, Brittany, is the actual spirit behind it? Because, like we said, this is everything spiritual. And for me, one thing that stood out for me, one time is that I think there's a book on it that someone was telling me one time, that if the devil can't take your soul, he sends a narcissist.
A narcissist, yeah.
So, like, maybe we could start from there. What are your thoughts on, like, the spirit behind narcissism? What do you think it is, per se?
Yeah, this is something that I do spend time reflecting on even today, right? And I think that when we talk about somebody that willingly, knowingly harms another being, I don't know how else you can class that other than evil, right? Which is the works of the devil.
Demonic.
Demonic, right?
Yeah.
Demonic, exactly. And we live on earth, however, everything is a manifestation of what's above, really, in the spirit world. Yeah.
What happens in the spirit, what happens in the physical is already happening in the spirit world. So the intellect.
Yes, exactly. And the war has already been won, so good, wins over evil. But I truly believe that it is evil. It is truly evil. It is demonic. I mean, these people, right? They get a pleasure. It's not only that they're hurting. There's a a pleasure that they get out of it.
It's a sadistic emotional pleasure, yeah. And I can perfectly relate with what you're saying, perfectly, because it would, and because obviously when you were in your relationship and presuming you genuinely loved the person you're with, and to see that or to try to obviously understand it, comprehend it, is very difficult because you assume the person loves you the same way you do. Or it's not like true love, because true love, the person does things to you.
Yes.
I think that's what people need to realize, the difference in terms of when they're seeing abuse, and the difference between being love bombed and genuine love, So
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the difficulty with healing, is just it's so hard to wrap your brain around, how is it possible, right? This person is with me, spending time with me, claims that they love me. How would they want to hurt me? In the normal brain, that just doesn't compute.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why it takes longer to heal, I think
for people. Yeah, I completely agree with you, and it's so difficult, and even for our listeners, there's some people that might be going through this. I just hope they're able to identify with what we are saying, and obviously we'll touch on the healing process, and also attracting and following dreams. And what I would also say is, Brittany, what lessons that, because obviously just talking about the love bombing like we were talking about just now, what lessons do you think a victim of this spiritual narcissism can take from this, such as love bombing, like we just said? What do you think of the other things they can do to set up boundaries to protect themselves from such spiritual abuse?
Yeah, I think, if I could use my own experience, I had a really difficult time accepting that, evil does exist, right? This is something that even today, I understand it, but it's still hard for me to wrap my brain around, right? So just knowing that this exists on our planet, and that it does not discriminate, right? There's people in this there's people in the spiritual community. It could be your friend, it could be somebody you work with, right? Like you were saying, right? Anybody. So having that knowledge and having your guard up, because this is a mistake I have made, right? I'm very trusting, right? Very trusting, and because of that, I do believe that it's important to take responsibility over your life too, right? And this is a mistake I've made, right? Being very trusting and believing that people are good at their core, but you need to feel people out. You need to, get to know them before, it's just to avoid getting hurt.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. So you just say what would be a time frame that they should set up before they start putting down their boundaries, in terms of that, because it can be hard to define as well in some instances.
Well, and it's a slow process, right? The narcissistic abuse is very subtle to begin with, so you don't really notice it. But I think, if you're in touch with your intuition and you do feel that something's wrong, pull back and, really assess how you are feeling and put those boundaries down. Because it does ruin, not ruin, but it affects your, self-esteem, self-confidence and things like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the problem with that is someone that's naturally confident can begin to question themselves.
Yes.
Before they even start to realize it, especially when there's a lot of gaslighting that goes on here within the relationship. They begin to question themselves, and it can become really dangerous and draining, which can even manifest physically as well. So it's very, very, very critical stuff in its core being to recognizing those forms of abuses and setting up the appropriate boundaries so it doesn't go into a deeper realm, and it's going to be even more difficult to come out of it and might even take a longer process to heal. Like you obviously mentioned, it took you like 4 years. So I mean, it's almost half a decade. So you what, sir?
I said I know. I mean, I might be, I did have a lot of things that I was healing from, right? I think my situation was, a little bit, like it did take long, right? But there was a few things that I was healing from. So, and I'm literally not even the same person. Like I transformed into a different human being, I think, through it all. So, yeah.
I mean, it's like almost as if, like you were mentioning, the point of having that innate built intuition. And I think that's a point that I even want us to touch on, to protecting oneself and being closer spiritually as well. Do you think you have like any sort of like tips or maybe your experiences that one can use to have intuition to know which path to go down when all these things are going on? Or perhaps you can touch on some examples.
Sure, yeah, like I think that it's really like this is a matter of, good and evil. And if you are going through this, if anybody is, I do believe that leaning into your faith is the right thing to do, right? And
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because you're gonna find strength there, and you're gonna find answers there too, right? Like if you can't trust your intuition, right, you ask God. I mean, it's related, but seek what you believe in and it will tell the truth, right?
Yeah. And when you say answers, Britney, like in what forms do you think those answers have come? Like, if you had like maybe dreams or visions that you've seen, like, to go this way, don't go this way, like in what form can those answers come in for people, do you think?
Well, I've come across narcissists since then, right? And not in a romantic sense, but in a professional sense and friendship. And I just, again, had a hard time understanding that this person would want to hurt, right? To want to harm. It's very, very like hard. And so just, asking God and really tuning into how I feel and just making decisions based on that. I mean, these people have to go, right? You can't have, there was something I heard, it was months back, but it's like, there's this saying, right? Keep your grass low, so you can see the snakes, right? But you got to cut the head of the snake off. If there's an arc in your life, they got to be removed, because they're just going to mess with you. They're going to fuck with you, excuse my language, but they're going to cause havoc, right, on your life. So they have to go.
Yeah. and it's for people also to, because let's put it this way, Brittany, when you're in it, it's extremely difficult, and it's for people to get that courage to do that, and it takes a lot of courage. And I think for people to even get to, because this goes really deep and spiritual as well, I think for people to get that inner strength to do that goes beyond them. They have to be able to tap in to that, and again, it goes into connecting to your God. They have to be able to tap into that your inner soul, your inner being, to get that strength, because I actually think that can be a stage for them to recognizing that this is beyond them. They can't do this on their own, and they need to tap into that energy, or however people want to class it, from God to help them get through it. And I believe through that they can even receive further revelation. I mean, what do you think about that? Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on that. No.
But yeah, it's so I think that's very, very important for people to get into their inner core being, go into their sanctuary or spiritual place, and really tap in to start that journey of discovery, and knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel as well. And talking of obviously love bombing, which we mentioned earlier, I'd like us to also explore the theme of soul ties or soul contracts, which some people might not be aware of. Maybe you can touch on your experience with that, and also why this is so important to tap into the spiritual and understanding what the soul tie is as well. I don't know if you can elaborate on that for us, Brittany.
Yeah, so I think that in terms of soul contracts, I do think that there are situations that happen in life to certain people that are meant to bring them to a higher state of being, where they're sent possibly a narcissist, right? And if you look, right, a lot of people, the people that do choose to heal, they are changed, and they are, different, and they are more in tune with who they are. I mean, could you say that for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, because it brings you to a state of spiritual awakening, and I believe for anybody that's been through that, they go through a journey. I think I've mentioned it before. I think it's like a journey they go through, and a spiritual awakening as well, and even a self-discovery that can go even further after you've healed. And that spiritual awakening can help you in so many different aspects of your life, in work, in business. So this goes beyond just getting healed from a certain form of abuse, but having that awakening is going to help you, as I mentioned before, in so many different aspects of your life. So this spiritual awakening is crucially important to just even looking beyond just recovering and healing from narcissistic abuse, because it is going to help in several different aspects of your life. And you can even begin to now realize and achieve things that you would have probably thought you couldn't achieve before, but because you've had that opening of the third eye, you're able to see all the possibilities. Because this mind, let's face it, Brittany, I was reading just before we even started, I was just reading something on the law of attraction, and it said the mind is more powerful than a supercomputer. I was just that is just deep. That is deep.
Yeah.
Because I honestly believe real genius comes from creativity. The geniuses are the creatives. Simply put, it's not about academia, because the ability to create, and for people to now, because sometimes I just think about it the universe constantly expanding, and there's so many, and the thing is, every thought that's happened has been probably thought before or in the higher realm. And it's, if you've had that thought and you want to create something, whether it's a business or something, you have that power, you have that ability to make it manifest, you know?
Yeah.
And also obviously visualizing you doing that. There's other concepts to that with the law of attraction. But so when people can begin to realize that, and I think also like in our society today, it's so easy to just be spiritually dead, you know, with all the distractions that we have.
Yes.
And when people can just tap into that, it can be extremely powerful. Like I like this quote, so to speak, to say that, you know, don't tell me the sky is the limit when there are footprints on the moon. Do you know what I mean? So simply put, the limits in life are the ones that you set for yourself. And once you start thinking like that, the possibilities of what you can achieve are just unimaginable.
I love that.
Yeah. So really, really deep stuff. Really, really deep stuff. So yeah, I think it's very important. Like you mentioned, that spiritual awakening is crucially very, very important to that. Yeah.
I just want to add something to that. On the other side of the spectrum, right? Like you can, you know, create all these, you know, infinite possibilities for yourself, right? At the same time, you can also set a lot of limitations on yourself, right?
Yeah.
Which can prevent you from, you know, achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve, and going through narcissistic abuse, right? With all the self-doubt and all the, you know, the things that happen within it, even after healing, right? There's still those, you know, those scars that are there. And so really working on your mindset is, you know, it's a day-to-day thing. It's something that you have to cultivate.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you there, Brittany. And yeah, you just even remind me of the point, because, and this is a relatable experience that I can even relate with work. And it's like, sometimes we as human beings, like we plan so much, you know, because we think with a logical mindset. And this is something I've always even argued about maybe in the Christian spheres, you know, perhaps maybe when they say, oh, give 10%, you know, with tithing or something. And I just think about it and I say to myself that, well, hang on a minute, that 10% is symbolic, because God is not a God of like mathematics, surely not. Because one plus one cannot equals 2. It just simply cannot to God. Do you know what I mean? 1 plus 1 can equal to 1,000,000. And to me, it's like he's a God of art, not mathematics. So I honestly think that we ourselves, like you were saying, like we limit ourselves, like we actually do limit ourselves sometimes with, you know, logic, because I can relate to situations at work, business, where I've planned for something to happen. Okay, like restricting myself. Okay, for this client, like I'm planning to achieve this, but then like it just blows the waters. Like just like it goes off the scale what my projections just for that one client. So I think people should also like open themselves up to like just being free and like, you know, not trying to think they can do everything by themselves, but letting go a bit of that to know that you know, there's an energy up there that can actually help you to do better. Once you tap into that, you'll be unstoppable. You actually will be unstoppable.
I agree with that. Yeah, it's really like a higher consciousness, you know, higher consciousness thinking, right? Where you're breaking down the, you know, the what's the word I'm thinking of right now? The constraints, I guess, within the mind that is developed through, I mean, society, through your family structure, right? Everything that's put on us as humans.
Exactly.
Like spirituality to it. I know for me, like once I started taking my spiritual life seriously, my mind changed huge, very much.
And was your like background, was it like, did you come from like, was it a religious family or anything like that, or did you just
so I'm Christian, but it was like go to church on Christmas, and I was always very curious about spirituality. All through my teenage years, I was really interested in going to different temples. I lived in Asia. I was always, questioning spirituality, but it wasn't until I really started implementing practices, going to God very often, and now, it's the focus of my life. So it's changed.
And I think that curiosity also goes a long way as well, because when you're curious, it does, because I'm sure you'll understand when I say ask or knock on the door and it shall be open to you, because I can relate to a similar experience like that as well, to find some discovery. And I think God likes that, when you're curious. Let's just say, so leading on to generational curses, because as I mentioned, our point of Britney, I think this was also a theme that also even attracted me to what some things I saw that you were talking about as well. And I think this is really important for people to have this spiritual insight as well. So what would you say about generational curses?
Yeah, I think that, if we're talking about narcissism, right, it's often it runs through the bloodline, and there's things within families and that carry down for generations, right? And certain people are assigned to heal that within their bloodline, but it's a tough job. Yeah, like if you have these these things within your family, and they've carried down for many generations, and there's somebody within the family that probably vibrates at a higher frequency just overall, they are the person to break this within their family. And so they really need to go against the grain within their family and not follow the pattern that is set upon them, right? Like we were talking about the conditioning, everything like that when you're a child. So it's really about breaking that generational curse and not allowing it to, if the person was to have children, right, they're going to be raising their children differently without whatever they were taught. So it's it's tough to do, but
and how would you say they can go about that? Like, is there a process to that? Is there a spiritual process, like how they can go about breaking that generational, because it runs deep, the things that people might not know about?
It does. And I think for anybody that does feel called to do this, I think it's just a spiritual thing where you just feel it inside. Your vibration is different. You move a little bit differently than your family, right? You think differently, right? You're just kind of different. Usually those are the people that are the ones to break it. And I think it's a spiritual thing. You just feel it, and it's really about just leaning into your beliefs and honing your own, your own kind of thoughts and how you want to run your life and how you want to feel about yourself, how you want to live,
I totally agree.
Creating your own vision for your own life aside from what you were taught.
And it's all about tapping into that energy, because we're all energy, which I'm going to do this episode. It's about tapping into that energy, that vibration, to know, and when you're praying, to just seek, because I believe so many things can get revealed to people as they seek to discover things more spiritually, because there's so many generations, and you don't know some things that your bloodline might be suffering for due to some things that have been done in the past that you don't know about. So I think people can, put a lot of importance to, generational curses, because I believe there was a book I read at the time, Success Guaranteed, Breaking Generational Curses, and I believe you can actually guarantee the success of your bloodline through breaking these generational curses and applying generational blessings instead, because that does exist in contrast with generational curses. So if people, because sometimes some people just find like things just work out for them, like they just work out, you know, like if you want to call it good luck, like they just have a good luck about them, but they might just be operating on a generational blessing from their previous generations. So these things run really deep. They run really deep, and so if you look to have that awareness of what's going on and to be able to apply it. And also, I think another thing people should remember is to be able to think beyond themselves for their future generations, like not be narrow-minded to just think into like their lifetime and stuff, but thinking beyond. I think that's really important, and that also plays a big part in leadership too. Yeah. So finally, Brittany, do you think like what would you say? What tips would you give people to also like go through this healing process? And also, like we touched briefly on the law of attraction. What kind of like steps from your experience do you think you can advise people that might be going through this form of spiritual abuse that they've just suddenly been awakened to?
I think the no contact is important, you know, really cutting that energy between you and the person who is hurting you, which is, it's not always easy to do because you develop, right, the trauma bonding, right? There's that addiction that comes with it.
It's very difficult, and we need to empathize with people when it comes to that, because a lot of people that have not been through the abuse do not understand it. Oh, just get over it. Oh no, it goes deeper than that. It's a soul tie, it's a contract in the spiritual realm. So really, really important. Yeah.
And I think just you know, really leaning, you know, into who you are, getting to know who you are, right? Being very gentle with yourself, and you know, working through because through narcissistic abuse, there's a lot of invalidation, right? Where you bring up things, you try to speak about things and you're kind of shut down. So all those emotions are really just trapped inside of you. So really kind of working through them and addressing how you felt through everything is really important and helps healing.
Yeah, definitely. So knowing who you are, I think that's very important as well. As you mentioned, discovering self-purpose. Yeah, and
of course, like whatever anybody's faith is, you know, going back to that, like, you know, I don't push, you know, any beliefs on anybody, but you know, whatever anybody believes in, to lean into that.
Yeah, definitely. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what religion you are. I think it's important that we touch on that too. Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I really did a lot of like cleansing.
Okay.
You know, like energetic cleansing. You know, just even my mind, my body, right? Like just, and also withstained from being with anybody to truly heal, rather than, you know, cover the wound and get into another relationship.
Exactly. Like, not just when rebound. Yeah,
which I fell into as well. But when I truly healed, you know, I remained on my own, and I still am. So, you know, I think that's really important.
Yeah, people need to have the adequate time to heal, because it wouldn't be fair on the next relationship you get into as well, because just be bringing all the things that might affect the future relationship. So I think it's very important for people to know that. And then obviously the next step, like how would you do practice any like visualization techniques to get you to where you've gotten to with your business today as well, the success of your business? Is there anything techniques you did?
Yeah, this is something that I didn't really do in my healing process per se, but now, you know, visualizing where you want to be, what you want in your life, you know, these are really powerful tools.
Setting goals,
goals, like in healing, like you could definitely apply that to healing, right? Imagining your higher self. Who
exactly
is he, right? How do they act? How do they feel? you know, and that'll kind of push you through those, you know, those lower emotions that you're feeling.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, really important stuff. Really important stuff. And I think when people ultimately like come through all that, the healing and also the visualization of like certain elements to get them to that next stage, I think it can be ultimately satisfying, and maybe they can be even thankful for the journey that they've gone through with having no regrets of what they've actually been through, because experience really is the best teacher, because you can't be who you are today without experiences. So you just be richer for it, basically, for the experience. And I think that's even an important part of the healing process, like embracing like what you've been through and letting it, you know, become a part of you and using it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yes, very, very powerful. Like I think there's a lot of people that miss this, you know, and they end up stuck, and they end up very, you know, bitter, right, through their life, right? They choose not to heal, right? So choosing to heal, right, you really have a different perspective around it. And I think
exactly
what you're saying, like, so it's a very freeing and a very, very powerful feeling to say, like, and to feel that, hey, that hurt, but I'm really grateful for who I am today based on what I lived through, even though it nearly killed me. For real. Right?
Nearly killed a lot of people.
But on the 3D level, like, I definitely nearly died too. So, but now it's being really grateful for it, you know. It feels good, you know. There's an empowerment with that.
Exactly. And I think that can be really powerful for people, you know, when they've been through that, because there was something that I watched at the time, and it's this. Okay, let me put it out there. Batman's my favorite superhero, because he's the most realistic. And there's in the Batman Dark Knight, there was a bonus DVD. I think it should still be on YouTube, The Psychology of Batman. And I found that so interesting and compelling. You know, with his fears, how he got through his fears of bats. And because of that trauma that he went through, losing his parents and everything, being an only child, like, because of that, it made him who he was. And he wanted to discover a higher purpose and, you know, probably be a vigilante fighting crime. But the thing is, the whole point of understanding that psychology is when someone goes through trauma like that, and you can apply it to narcissistic abuse as well, it makes them become, they actually compared him to Ronald Reagan in the bonus disc as well. And it makes them become an advocate for something much more bigger and an activist, like, you know, it's psychology. So I think, you know, when people go through something like that and they're able to, you know, do something that becomes much bigger than them, I think that can be the ultimate and can be ultimately satisfying as well, spiritually.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think even Elon Musk, right, is he had an abusive childhood. You know, look at him today, right? That definitely didn't hold him back. You know, he moved through it, and
power of the mind.
Yeah, and the mind is really powerful. You know, it's like, I won't stand here and say that I'm, you know, totally perfect, right? I can definitely revert back to memories and things like that, and
none of us are.
And it's you know, just getting over that hump, and, you know,
getting over it. You're totally right. And talking of Elon Musk, he does say a lot of deep stuff as well, so he's definitely in tune with his mind.
But I think the really amazing thing is that it doesn't matter what happens in your life, you know. You can heal, you can move forward, and you can be anything you want to be. It doesn't matter if you've been, you know, you don't have to label yourself, right, as an abused person, right? With you, you know. Instead, you can be the person that rose above right? And conquered everything that was set on you, right? You don't have to be the, I was abused and I was hurt and, life is
constantly
really hard.
playing the victim card. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Rise above it, and it shows the test of your character as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Exactly.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So, Britney, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Perhaps we can welcome you in future as well to talk about some other topics.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Hi guys, hope we enjoyed the episode with Britney. I think it was really profound in a lot of aspects. Different things we touched on, the importance of spirituality and narcissism, which is a theme for this month, and recognizing generational curses, soul ties within relationships, having that built-in intuition to be able to discover for yourself, and then ultimately going through that healing process, and also going past that to discover more about yourself and self-discovery, because even after healing, it goes beyond that, and discovering your self-purpose and achieving your dreams and ambitions through the power of visualization and obviously the law of attraction. So thank you so much for watching. If you've not already subscribed to the channel, do hit the like, subscribe and notification bell down below so you can be notified every time I drop a conversation. Thank you so much for listening, and peace out.